everybody, welcome back to my channel. This is Detroit AllyCat. I am so happy to have you here. Today is going to be a very difficult subject for me to speak about, so if I shed a tear or take a moment, I hope you won't judge me too harshly. It is something that I feel very passionately about, and I needed to make a video about this. And I really hope that I do this person justice by making a video. So without further ado, let's get spooky. Alright everyone, if you are tuning in to my channel for the first time today, it might actually be something that is going to happen because a lot of you might be following this story and you've probably never watched me before. I'm just a little bitty nobody here in Michigan that likes to cover spooky stories. I am pagan, I do witchcraft stuff, but sometimes I jump into true crime and I find myself very interested in stuff like that. I am prior military. Blue runs in my veins. It runs in my family's veins. I was married to blue. I stand behind police officers. And today, what I'm going to tell you is going to be hypocritical of everything I stand behind. But it is my duty. And the one thing I can do for Ryan Whitaker to tell the truth and to make you know what happened so you can hear his name and there can be some justice for this man. So let's just get right into it. What are we talking about today? We are talking about Ryan Whitaker, a 40-year-old man who lived in Phoenix, Arizona. He was murdered on May 21st, late night May 21st, early morning May 22nd. I do hope that I'm right about that. It's very hard to find information about this story because it seems like nobody wants to cover it, which really, to be honest with you, makes me very angry because it seems like CNN and all those other media want to cover everything when it has a political agenda attached to it. But we're not going to talk about Ryan Whitaker. Why are we not going to talk about Ryan Whitaker? It was police brutality. It was civil injustice. But we're not talking about it for some reason. So that's okay. I'm going to talk about Ryan Whitaker. Every time there is a life lost that I care about or I feel attached to, I do a ritual. I light a candle. Christians do it, pagans do it. Everyone in a religion does it. I lit this candle here for Ryan Whitaker. I lit it because I knew that while I lit that light, that I would be able to tell his story to you. And while that was lit, I would think about nothing but Ryan Whitaker. And when it goes off, I can say goodbye to him and hope that he gets the justice that he deserves. So that is why I lit that candle. So our Second Amendment rights give you right to bear arms and protect your family and your home. You are allowed to have weapons. Arizona is a state that is very pro firearms. You don't even have to have a license to have a firearm. It's one of the most firearm states that there is. I've actually thought about moving there because I read about their laws. But no longer will I be thinking about moving there after what I saw. So let's talk about Ryan Whitaker. 40 years old, just a regular guy. A good guy, not a bad guy. I tried to find bad things about him. I wanted to know everything about Ryan Whitaker, but his family is protecting their privacy, as they should, because everyone is probably in their business saying horrible things on both sides and upsetting this family. So I could only find what I could through a website on Facebook or a Facebook page. It's called Justice for Ryan. I really hope that after you watch this that you go on there and like it and support justice for Ryan too. But anyway, going back to Ryan, he was 40 years old. He was a father. He was a brother. He was a son. He was an uncle. He was pro-law enforcement. On various pictures that I saw of Ryan Whitaker, he had the American flag on his arm, which actually made me think that he was prior military. I couldn't find that, but I felt a very pro-America vibe coming off him in all the pictures that I saw. And that is why I guess I'm so angry. I'm not going to say that I haven't been upset about the cases that I've seen before, because I have, but I have remained quiet because I feel like sometimes it's important for us to speak up, and sometimes important for us to stand down and let the others that are affected by this speak up. Right now, it's important that I speak up about this because I have seen various instances of this happening. It is legal to have firearms. It is legal to have them in your house. You can have a conceal and carry it in your car as you drive. Here in Michigan, when they got mad at our governor, they went right to the state capitol and carried those rifles right up to that door. No one shot them. No one shot them because that is legal. That was their right. If you disagree with it, that is your right. But you cannot tell me that it is not their right to carry it. And a lot of people are probably wondering, am I a Democrat? Am I a Republican? I'm neither. I'm a libertarian. I believe that you can say whatever you want, even if I disagree with it. And I will die to fight that right. Because that is our American right. And we have to hold on to that. That is is the most important thing about America. That we can say these things. We can talk. Freedom of speech. That we can bear arms. You may not agree with all of these rights that we've been given, but we've been given them. And it is our duty to uphold these laws. And justice must be served, even if we don't agree with the justice. So let's go back to Ryan. Ryan was having a great day. His daughter graduated from high school. Him and his girlfriend, they were inside their apartment. They were playing PlayStation. They were having fun. And they were being loud. I bet you Ryan felt like he accomplished something. His girlfriend, she was making salsa. So they were playing a video game and they were really getting into it. They were having fun. They were doing things that I've done with my husband millions of times. I love watching him play video games. And sometimes I get excited and I scream, especially when there's a scary part, because I beg him to play scary video games. So there was a neighbor above Ryan and his girlfriend Brandy. Her name was Brandy Nees. And the neighbor called in to the police and basically said that he thought they were being loud and that there was a domestic issue. The 911 dispatcher asked him, "Do you hear some violence going on?" He said, "Sure. If that will make them get there faster, then yes, absolutely, that's what I heard." As the police officer was walking up to Ryan Whitaker's apartment, you could hear him talk about how he thought that neighbor was saying whatever he could to get them there. He was talking about how annoying it was. So anyway, a police officer's most hated call is a domestic. And in certain states, one always has to be taken away and has to leave. And it never ends good. Maybe sometimes, but most of the time it's just a big pain for a police officer to deal with. I bet you there's a police officer watching this right now sitting there thinking, yep, I hate domestics. They're hard. They're a hard thing to go to. So it got called in a domestic. And when the neighbor that called the police for the second time said that he thought that there was violence going on, it was an escalated domestic. I can't tell you what code it was, but it made the officers go to the building faster. So they got there, and there were 2 police officers. Officer Jeff Cook was 33 years old. He had been on the police force for 3 years. 3 years. So, by most standards, that would be a rookie. Not saying that 3 years is a short amount of time, because a police officer can see a lot of things in 3 years, but still, he wasn't on the force for 20 plus years. However, John Farango was 53 years old. Now, I'll admit, sometimes I don't know much, but I do know that they don't let you on the force as a 50-year-old man. So John Farango probably had to be on the force for a little bit more than 3 years. So he had more experience. I can't tell you this is a fact because I can't find it. There's not a lot of information online about this. So I'm just going by common sense. I would think John Farango had more experience than Jeff Cook. And when you watch the body camera, you can tell John Farango, he was a little bit calmer, and it seemed like he had known something had happened that could get him and his partner in trouble. So anyway, they go to the door, and they say very loudly, I'll admit that, police, open up, and they waited a few minutes. Now think, if you're inside this apartment and you're playing video games, are you going to be able to hear people outside? They didn't hear anyone say police. This is what they swore to. And we know by Brandy Nees saying that just a couple days ago that somebody came to the door and knocked and ran away. So Ryan Whitaker was already on high alert. He went to the door holding a firearm, a pistol, in his right hand. The officers came to the door, and because Ryan had already had an issue with somebody knocking on the door and leaving, he was on high alert. He took a pistol, a firearm, and put it in his right hand and went up to the door. Officer Jeff Cook stood on one side, and Officer John Farango stood on the other side. Neither of them were in direct line of the door, so Ryan Whitaker could not see them. When he opened the door, to the right, he could see John Farango. He could not see Jeff Cook. Immediately, John Farango said, "Gun, gun," or something of that nature. And you could see Ryan Whitaker going down to put his firearm down and put his other hand up in the air to, take a submissive stand, show the police officers that he's replying. I don't know how he could have done it any better. Should he have thrown the gun on the ground? Anyway, as you can see, I'm a little bit heated about this. Even my dog is heated about this. So this basically lasted all of probably 5 seconds. I say probably because I don't know the exact time. They estimated, I've heard, 5 to 14 seconds. I would say 5 seconds. As he's putting his firearm down and putting his hand up, Jeff Cook shot Ryan Whitaker in the back twice. In the back. He said he felt imminent danger for his life and his partner's life. And what happens next, I can't justify. I can't. Ryan Whitaker screams, "No, no." Brandy Nees comes to the door behind him and goes, "Baby, oh my God, why did you shoot him?" John Farango takes Brandy Nees and takes her to the other side. You can hear Ryan Whitaker screaming, "No." Now, if you have heard a person die before, you know it has a very distinct sound. I guess they've called it the death growl or something of that. You can hear in his voice that he's about to die. And Brandy begins begging to go near him, to hold him, to comfort him. John Farango tells her she needs to stay right there. She begs. She begs the officer to go check on Ryan. At this point, you tell that John Farango is upset. He has said multiple times, "I didn't shoot him. My partner did. I didn't shoot him, but my partner did. She's begging, she's pleading. She says, can you please go over to Ryan and check on him, please? And he almost says, he goes, I want to do this for you, but I can't. And he almost calls her sweetie. He almost calls her sweetie. You can hear it plain as day on the video cam. You just took this man's woman away from him. You took his life, and now you're gonna call her sweetie? The officer begins to say, everything's okay. And she goes, no, everything is not okay. There's nothing okay about this. He begins to question her. It's important to note that Brandy's niece is wearing a pair of shorts and she's wearing a crop top. They have a female officer come talk to her after all of this is over with. Not one mark, not one scratch, nothing. She says that Ryan's never laid a hand on her before. She says they've argued a little bit, like every couple has. They even argued that day, earlier in the day, about their plans the next day. She was honest. She was honest. So we listened to Ryan Whitaker die, basically, and we watched Brandy Neves beg and cry and plead to hold his hand. And that is the film that I saw. It is the camera footage that I saw. And what's funny is that they did not release this footage until 55 days after this had been committed. But they finally got it. The family is outraged, as they should be. They want the officers to be fired. They want the 911 dispatcher to be fired. And they want the charges to be filed against the person that called that night complaining about the domestic. Now, the two officers, they have not been fired. They're not on patrol, but they're not fired. They're working another assignment. The dispatcher, I don't see anything that the dispatcher did wrong. Actually, the dispatcher told the officers he's basically saying whatever he can to get you guys out there. So, now, the neighbor upstairs, I definitely think he should be charged for filing false police reports. The blood of this is on his hands. However, the blood shouldn't be on his hands because the police officer should have been smart enough to know that this was a call made because somebody wanted to just go to bed. In 5 seconds, Jeff Cook became the judge, the jury, and the officer, and decided that he was going to take his life. If you are so scared to go up to a house that you're going to shoot when you see a firearm, just see one, you should not be on the job. You should not be on the job. I'm not gonna lie, it's not an easy thing to be a police officer. You go through a lot of things. You see a lot of things. You get tired, you get angry, you get upset. It's just part of the job. It's a hard job, and one which I might add they don't pay good enough for. I think that this man who had been a police officer for 3 years, I think he was afraid. And I think he shot and killed Ryan Whitaker because he was afraid. I think that there is no justifiable reason other than he was afraid. He should not have been on the force, and the police force should own up to this and give Ryan Whitaker the justice that he deserves. But they're not. They're not. They're saying that that police officer did the right thing and he felt that he was in imminent danger. I challenge you to go watch this video cam. the police cam and tell me if you think these police officers were in imminent danger. Because I think that these citizens were in imminent danger because they didn't train this police officer good enough to be calm and know what the difference is between putting a fire alarm down and putting one up and pointing it at you. And if you don't know the difference between that, you don't belong on the police force. There are plenty of other jobs that you can do that you don't have to be afraid like that. I feel bad for John Cook. I do. But I believe he should be going to prison for murder. He murdered this man. When I saw this, I saw my husband. I saw me. I saw my family. I saw what could happen to us. I don't understand it. Stephen Whitaker, his brother, talked about his brother and said that Ryan Whitaker was pro-law enforcement, that he wanted to be a cop. Can you imagine? Can you imagine hearing your brother talk about how he wanted to be a police officer and then being killed by the law? Ryan Whitaker's sister was very, very passionate and upset, as she should be. She went to all of the neighbors. She went to 6 different neighbors trying to find out who had actually called in. And the 6 neighbors that she talked to, each one of them said that Ryan was a wonderful neighbor. I mean, you're not going to say that you were the person who made the phone call if someone's sister shows up on your doorstep, obviously. But there was one neighbor, Brandy Nees said, that was having a domestic a couple of months before she actually moved in with Ryan Whitaker. He said he heard them fighting, and he went to his neighbor and he said that if she ever needed him to come down to his apartment. And that was just the kind of person that Ryan Whitaker was. He was very against domestic violence. He was pro-law enforcement. He was pro-America. And it's important that you guys know that this happened. Why is he not being on the front line of the news? Why is his name's not being shouted as people march down the streets? Why? Was this not police brutality? Was this not a civil injustice? Please do not let Ryan Whitaker die in vain. Please listen to me. You cannot forget this man's name. I love this country. I am pro-law enforcement, but that doesn't mean that I don't see an injustice when it's straight in your face. And I believe that you should look into these cases and educate yourself. Know what's happening. Look into Ruby Ridge. Look into Waco. What happened there? What went wrong? I don't believe that these cases were right. I believe that this runs deep, very deep, and we should come together as a country and fix it. I guess I was very passionate about this case, and if you stuck it out with me, I hope that I told you something that you didn't know, or I hope that if you are part of Ryan Whitaker's family, that you felt that I did a good job representing this man, because my heart goes out to you so much, and I hope that you can one day find peace, and I wish you luck on your fight, and believe me, I'll be standing behind you. And if you enjoyed my channel, like, subscribe, ring my bell. I'm pretty goofy. I do goofy things. I'd like to tell ghost stories, but today this man's story needed to be told. So if you are a fan of my channel, just know that I actually interrupted my 3-part series on domestic violence to talk about this case because I thought it was very important. I googled this case and nothing came up. Nothing came up. A bunch of little things came up, things that had to be in there, but it was just not, it was not like the other cases that I saw. And I needed to talk about it. And I hope that I talked about it in a way that does this case service. Phoenix, Arizona, you have a lot of things that need to be worked on. And we all do. But the first thing that you need to work on is admitting when something happened and when it was wrong. Okay, guys, have an amazing day. As always, stay spooky, stay safe.